Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks. As we talk today about the push for independence and how, even though, you know, your history books in high school may have told you, we got together with the First Continental Congress, we told Parliament to stop. We got together with the Second Continental Congress, said Parliament didn't stop, we better all go for independence, break out the war drums, let's go fight. We fought, the war changed, there was Battle of Bunker Hill, the Concord, Lexington, we fought, the British regulars came at us, we defeated them at Saratoga, the French came in, and we were free men. Not free women, not free slaves, but free men. That's what the history book wants you to believe. It wasn't that easy. Let's go to the phone lines. Good morning. You're on Ocala Talks.
Good morning, Tom. I enjoy your program today. Whomsoever, you got to remember, New York only ran from a place called the Battery, which was a British-built port where they could control the entrance to the harbor and to Manhattan. The other thing is travel at that time was almost impossible. The only way a man on a horse could maybe make 20 miles, and that's it. The horse was either dropping dead or they had to stop. And all these conditions that prevailed. And at that 1600s, we had the big religious persecution of anybody other than Catholic and the new religion, Protestant. So a lot of those people are the ones that came to this country, right, to run away from the oppression.
It just wasn't England. I said that earlier in the show. It just wasn't British people. It was British from all over. People from all over Europe came here looking for political and religious asylum.
And yes, but you got to remember, on a good travel weather, in other words, everything clicked, it still took you maybe 20 days to 30 days to cross the Atlantic. And all the communications that were taking place, I think, were really astounding.
It was closer to 70 days to cross the Atlantic. Took almost 3 full months to cross the Atlantic. And your point's well taken. For a delegate to go all the way to Philadelphia, it was quite the endeavor from Georgia to Philadelphia, over 900 miles that they would have to traverse on horseback. You're right. It was not something. Thanks for the call, Sonny. Sonny's entirely correct.
Right.
We're talking about men who made a lot of sacrifices here, folks, to get to this Continental Congress, to make these decisions. And if you think that these decisions were easy to make, let me. This is from the film 1776 by Peter Hunt. If you've not seen the movie 1776, it's a very good movie that explains some of this, how this happened. Here's some dialogue he recreated between Dr. Benjamin Franklin, John Dickinson, John Adams, and Judge James Wilson, who was from Pennsylvania as well. And when Judge Wilson's vote's called in the movie, here's what took place. Mr. Franklin goes, "There it is, Dr. Wilson. It's all up to you now. The whole question of American independence rests wholly on your shoulders. An entirely new nation, ready to be born or to die at birth, all on your say-so. Which will it be, Mr. Wilson? Every map maker in the world is waiting for your decision." That's the kind of stuff that's the kind of ways that people are being influenced. Dickinson, of course, goes, "Now, James, nothing's changed. Don't let Dr. Franklin create one of his confusions. The question is clear." Then Dr. Franklin goes, "Most questions are clear when someone else has to decide them." To which Adams said, "It would be a pity for a man who's handed down hundreds of wise decisions from the bench to be remembered only for one unwise decision he made in Congress." Then Dickinson yelled out, "James, you're keeping everybody waiting." Judge Wilson calmly, because he was a judge, he calmly said, "Don't rush me, folks. I know what you want me to do. But, Mr. Adams, you are correct about one thing. I'm the one who will be remembered for this vote. I'm different from you, John. Dickinson said, what do you mean, John? He goes, I'm different from you, John. I'm different from most of the men here. I don't want to be remembered. I just don't want to be the responsibility of being remembered. So these are the pressures that were facing these men up until the time they voted. Right after that, Franklin goes, Mr. Secretary, Pennsylvania says yes. Dickinson was part of the Pennsylvania delegate. He didn't want to, but he went with the delegate. So John Adams said with the vote, and once the 12 colonial delegations voted in favor of it, that was the final vote, was July 2nd. New York abstained. John Adams said, July 2nd will be celebrated as the most memorable epic in the history of America. Instead, July 4th is known as that when it was released to the general public with John Hancock's signature. But the point of this whole discussion is these men did not take independence lightly. There were a group of people that didn't want independence. They liked the life the way they had it. But it came back to Thomas Paine. That's what it all come back to, was Thomas Paine. Remember, he wrote that you can't have freedom if you have a hereditary monarch as your leader. You can't do it. It's impossible. He said the British Constitution was hopelessly flawed. They had hereditary rule. It had kings. You could never have freedom so long as you have hereditary rule. And when brought that basic fact back, even though there were people that thought that it was going to end badly, even though they voted for independence, a lot of the delegates thought they had signed their own death warrant. But 56 men in a hot, closed room in secrecy, because remember, they were traitors to the English. They were traitors to the crown. They created a document that was mostly written by Thomas Jefferson, presented to the entire Congress on June 28th. Voted on July 2nd, presented to everyone on July 4th. It created what is now, in my opinion, the greatest nation on the face of the earth. Were these men great? We started with that. Were these men great? Some of them were good guys. Some of them were bad guys. Some of them were out just for themselves, not really. They saw independence as a way for them to be able to operate more freely and make more money. But what they did was created a document that declared the freedom of the colonies from Great Britain. We're not talking about did it separate men from women and women. Nope. We're just talking that this was a document that declared this country's freedom from the control of tyranny. If you want to have a discussion about 3/5 of a human, or why women can't vote, or why Native Americans weren't able to vote and all, that's a constitutional situation. The Declaration of Independence declared our independence from the tyrannical, the tyranny-fueled rule of the English, of the British Isle. And that's why even those 56 men, even though some of them were good, some of them were bad, they all did a great thing when they put their name to a piece of paper that, unless the colonies could win, was literally signing their own death warrant. I want to thank each one of those 56 men for signing their own death warrant. But it didn't come to pass because we became free and we became the United States of America. Not everybody was free, I'll give you that, but that's a constitutional issue, not an independence issue. We'll be right back, in my opinion. We'll be right back after a short time out. You're listening to 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, WOCA, The Source.
on the first and third Wednesday